NCBN TT. I'm Steve David and I'm your host. Today, I talk with the manager of the TTFA Safeguarding Program, FIFA required program. So let me take time to introduce Gary St. Rose. Welcome to the set, Gary.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, good. We're glad to have you because safeguarding is a different word to a lot of people. A lot of people don't know about probably what safeguarding is. So it's great to have you so you can explain all the ins and outs about safeguarding and how it started and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So first, give me some background of who Gary St. Rose is.
As you said, I am the safeguarding player care and well-being manager in TTFA. I've been at TTFA approximately 7 years now in different capacities. And most recently, I took up the portfolio when FIFA asked that we submit someone to lead the safeguarding area or be the safeguarding focal point.
Right. I know a lot of our viewers probably never hear the word safeguarding and don't know exactly what it is. So explain to the viewers what is safeguarding.
So quite simply, safeguarding really is the protection of everyone involved in football, making sure that they're able to participate in football free from harm, harassment, or injury. Right? So that in a nutshell is what safeguarding is. Okay,
and we have to have certification, qualification to represent it or to become safeguarding notarized, no, not notarized, but certified.
Right. So what happens is that generally, because as you said, safeguarding is new to persons, what we do, we embark on educating persons of why we need to create a safe space in football. So the creation of that space is not only for kids, but also adults. So as I said, it's everyone involved in football. And the TTFA, through our affiliation with FIFA has tasked us with creating a safe space in Trinidad and Tobago in football. So part of that education process, we have linked to qualification, right? Because what we realize is that there are different levels of educations to be had based on the capacity you serve in football. So at the very basic level, you're required to have a broad understanding of what is safeguarding, how it applies, what you need to do to create a safe space in your own academy, your own environment for kids, for adults, for everyone. But as your responsibility in football progresses, the higher you serve in football, there's also additional information that you may need to have. For example, if you're on a league, if you're on a zone, if you're a part of an executive committee. So now, the level of knowledge you're supposed to have in terms of creating these safe spaces for everyone, it grows a bit. And what we have said is that we now would link it to different levels of qualifications.
So prior to you getting this job, you knew about safeguarding, or when they gave you the job, they teach you about it, or they certified you on it? How did that happen?
Right. So safeguarding has been around a long time, I would say over 40 years in the developed world, right? So it's nothing new to the developed world. But what happened, so I'll give you a bit of a background. In 2016, there was a series of sexual scandals in English football. It started off as one person coming forward in November 2016, and then it escalated, it snowballed, and at the end of 2018, when persons in the UK were ready to press charges, there were over 350 investigations, right? And there were over 2,800 incidents of sexual abuse in football, right? So what FIFA realized is that, listen, we needed to take safeguarding seriously, right? Because Beyond that, there were other isolated incidents. And then, of course, in the Caribbean, closer to home, we all remember the Haitian sexual scandal, right, involving the Haitian FA in 2018. So FIFA decided, listen, we need to get serious. We need to put things in place structurally. So what they did is that in 2019, they published the FIFA Code of Ethics. Now, the FIFA Code of Ethics covers several areas. However, what it did do was make physical, mental, psychological, sexual abuse an offense, right? So now, under FIFA laws, under FIFA regulations, all acts of harassment, mental or physical abuse became an offense. So FIFA decided, well, listen, since these things are offense, we need to enforce it. How do we do that? Well, we need to recruit persons from all our member associations and teach them how to enforce it. So FIFA then in 2021 launched its FIFA Guardians program. So the FIFA Guardian program have different parts. There are the FIFA Guardian or the FIFA learners who FIFA recruit through the MAs and work with them. But then there's the open modules that's open for everyone. And that's because of the general need for persons to understand safeguarding. So FIFA asks the MAs to submit names of persons that the MAs would like to train to become safeguarding officers, safeguarding leads, safeguarding managers. And the TTFA submitted a couple names of persons, inclusive of myself, to become safeguarding officers. So we went through that training. Training was around 2.5 years long, right? It was completed last year, 2023 in October. And during the course of this training, all the persons that were on the course from Trinidad and Tobago and throughout the Caribbean and wider region, we were armed with the information of how to start to set up and implement your safeguarding program, right? So that was the process leading us up to the implementation of our first policy in 2022, August of 2022, and then our revised policy on January 1st, 2024.
So right now it's a requirement or like a flat out FIFA requirement that if you're not certified, you can't play football, or what? How is that work out?
So generally, throughout the football world, right, you must be under the umbrella of that organization you belong to. There are different iterations of it. There are different ways that different football associations deal with and treat with it, right? In Trinidad, the system that we had before was that we had the zones. So normally, at the very bottom level, or the base level, the grassroots level, you have the zones and football is played in the zones, right? And above the zones, then we have what we would normally have the Tier 1 and Tier 2 football, or the national level football, right? The problem that we had was that the zones, even though they cover a geographical area in Trinidad and Tobago, there was still a lot of football being played with persons who did not come under the structure of the zones or any sort of TTFA structure in general. So we had a situation where, and this is just an example, one example, where persons would have been sent to a tribunal for a offense, for example, sexual assault, and the tribunal of the TTFA, this is a real example, would have found them guilty and banned them from football for life. And the next week, the coaching again. And that was because within the structure of football in Trinidad and Tobago, everybody was not under the same umbrella. Everybody, there wasn't a mechanism to enforce, right, that all persons come under the umbrella of the TTFA. So as I said, different countries do it in different ways. So looking at cases, looking at our policies, looking at what's happening in the environment, the TTFA decided, you know what, we need a way to do two main things. One, screen persons who are coming into football, because there may be persons who are coming into football with backgrounds, for example, that would be human trafficking, child molestation. You don't know. So you must have a screening process to screen persons coming into football. And secondly, if there are persons involved in football now who commit offenses against the code of ethics, against the disciplinary code, then we need a way to get them out of football once they pass through the process and keep them out of football, right? So before we didn't have that type of capacity, and there are many examples of persons who would have gone before a tribunal. The tribunal would have delivered a verdict, but the TTFA could not enforce it thoroughly, right? And so what we did, we designed a system to suit our reality, and that system was the license system. So with it, what we're saying is that, listen, now, because of those experiences, all persons involved in football at all levels that FIFA consider officials must have a license to operate. So that when you're coming in and you're applying for your license, you could be screened to ensure that you're not a risk to children or other persons. And if by chance you commit an offense, then we could fully enforce it by saying, listen, you no longer have a license to participate in football.
Meaning players as well?
Yeah, well, players are under the disciplinary code, right? So they could be disciplined according to disciplinary code, and they could be taken out of football. So they could be deregistered and stuff like that.
So that is the only enforcement they could be, or teams or managers or whoever. The only enforcement has to be under the TTFA or the FA, wherever we play in the world. Is that what you're saying? And the only thing that can happen is they can take them out of football. So
I wouldn't say the only thing, I would say the ultimate thing. Reason again, and these practical examples. So for example, a guy commits an offense, let's just say in South. I say in South because that's your area, right? And the team in South, they say, you know what? Your offense is so bad, we're banning you from this team. You could no longer coach here. What used to happen before is that sanction is limited to that team only. All that person does is that he picks up himself, he travels up to the east, and he starts to coach in the east, or he starts to perform duties in football in the east. So sometimes he's not a coach. So I don't want to say coach alone. Sometimes he starts to manage a team in the east. He starts to act as a physiotherapist as a team in the east, right? And the team in South, remember, you're not communicating with the team in the east. So the team in the east doesn't know anything about it. And to make matters worse, he used to volunteer in South, but now he's being paid a stipend in the east because they don't know anything. He comes with the credentials of having worked with you in South, and now he's going in the east, and they're paying him $150, $200 a session, and they are none the wiser that he has offenses against his name. So that is the reason. So I won't say only, because there are other organizations or ways you could deal with it. But the fact is, when single entities deal with offenses like these, it is not actually dealt with, because they don't have the authority to say, well, you know what, you committed an offense against a child in the South, you could no longer work in football throughout Trinidad. The only entity that has that authority is the TTFA. And that's why it's important for the TTFA to enforce against offenses when it's committed in terms of, against children and persons.
So, and safeguarding is not just that, right? It's broader than that. So implementation, how have we gone about implementing that safeguarding practices or requirement by TTFA?
So that's a good question. It actually leads from the question before. So as I said before, our main method of implementation was through the licensing criteria, right? So what we said was 3 important things. 1, every person must have a license to operate in football in Trinidad and Tobago. 2, every club, academy, or organization must have a license to operate in Trinidad and Tobago. And 3, and the most important, the most important one, every league must have a license to operate in football in Trinidad and Tobago. Why is that so important? Again, through our experiences, is that when we say someone is a prohibited person and not allowed to participate in football, what they do is that they take their team and they go to all the smaller leagues and try to play. So now we're trying to enforce that, listen, this person should not be around kids, this person is prohibited, this person shouldn't be working with people's children and stuff like that. And if they get to play, let's just say, for example, in a league in X community, then what it means is that that league has provided him or her with an opportunity to keep on working with these same children, because now they have to come and participate in the games. They have to train. So while training now, they're in constant contact with this person who may be or should be a prohibited person. You see? So that is how we chose to implement, and that's the reason why we implementing it like that with this licensing criteria. Because if we don't get everyone on board, it provides the loopholes for these persons to keep on being in football, keep on engaging with children or vulnerable persons, and a lot of times keep on doing what they have been doing.
Okay, I want you to think about this because we have to take a break now. But when we come back, I want you to get into why penalize an entire team with young kids or adults, whoever, for one person who the team or the kids probably doesn't even know that person is sanctioned for, for some kind of violation. And so that person is depriving younger kids from learning or going through football when it should be something to enforce it on that person. Okay, so when we come back, I want you to expand a little bit on that. Viewers will be right back after this short break.
Trinbago Heritage, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on NCBN TT Television Network.
Change on TV to the sound, boy, better stay calm, be cool.
Okay, welcome back, viewers. And for the ones now tuning in, you're looking at Field of Dreams on NCBN TT. And my name is Steve David. I'm the host. And I'm talking with Gary Riose, who is the Safeguarding TTFM manager. Okay, Gary, before the break, we were talking about, I was asking the question, you know, how this is enforced and what other preventive measures we can have, and the whole works. So I want you to address that for me, please.
Right. So our aim is to help two things. One, create a safe space for everyone to enjoy football. But two, also to build the capacity of our members, of our affiliates, of our clubs, even at the grassroots level, right? So we don't want to place sanctions on persons. That is the last resort. However, because of the urgency and the serious nature of what we do in terms of safeguarding, everyone has to be accountable, right? So for example, if our academy, if we say that you must ensure that your officials, everyone that works in the academy, is safeguarding certified, they had passed through the screening process and they have a license. If you choose to have an unlicensed person working on your staff, it means now what you could be doing is undermining the system that we have in place, because you're not sure why that person don't have a license, you see? So now we have to hold that academy accountable for that action. So there must be sanctions that we must be able to levy on that academy for taking that action, because the message is quite clear. Everybody, every academy, every league must be licensed, right? Now, if you go through the proper process and you do safe recruitment, and before the person comes in to work with you, you ask them, do you have a safeguarding license? And they say no. Then what you should do is you should send them to acquire their license. The process isn't long, right? We have several different persons now lecturing throughout the country who could deliver the workshops for them. But if they did not go through that screening, where we do that background check on them, where we ask them the pertinent questions in terms of, have you been arrested? Have you been convicted? Have you, all these questions, so that we can now properly screen them, right? The truth is then, whether you're conscious of it or not, whether it was deliberate or not, you as an academy leader putting the children at risk. You have just increased the risk level to the kids and them, right? And that is something now that we have to take very, very seriously. Same thing with leagues. If as a league, you allow academy to participate that has not been licensed, then the truth is you're not sure that a background check would have been done on that academy and all of their staff. So now you're putting the children from that academy who participating with them and others at risk. Now that's probably not the intention, but that is what happens. So you're putting them at increased risk, right? Because you're not sure why that academy does not have a license, you see? So our message really is that we're here to work with everyone with the goal in mind that the safety of our children comes first, And once people start to realize the type of risk, the type of situation that exists out there with our kids, then they really get an appreciation for what we're doing. Because our job really is risk mitigation to lower the risk of something happening to these kids.
So the person mightn't say no, they might say yes. You have a license? Yeah. So what they have to do, come and show the license?
Yes, they have to show it, they have to submit it. You should keep a copy of it as a club, So for example, as a club, if you have 10 members of staff, even on your phone, they could submit it electronically to via WhatsApp, and you download it, so you always have it on your phone. So now when somebody asks, listen, where is the license for Mr. X? You could just pull it up and show, listen, this is his license, he has been licensed.
So all the football teams in Trinidad, they have license for all these players?
So far, we have 137 licensed academies, which in my estimation covers most of the organized academies. Most of the organized academies, right? We have just around 1,400 officials who have been licensed, and my estimation that would take us about, I think, around 75% of persons who are actually involved in football as officials, right? So we have the majority of clubs or academies and the majority of persons, in my opinion, from what I've seen in the football landscape, already licensed. We have them already licensed. So what we're doing here now is really a process of educating the public, because most persons involved in football already know about the safeguarding through football channels, but this is our first interview on TV, where we're now trying to educate the public as to what we're doing and why we're doing it, you know, so that if as a parent you take your child to an academy that's not licensed, or you take a child to an academy, the first thing you'll ask is, are you licensed? And if the head coach or the manager of that academy says no, as a parent, you should not leave your child there. Take them to an academy that is licensed.
Okay, I talk about players, like all the players that play in the TT Pro League is licensed?
Players don't come under that licensing. Players do something that's called registration.
Right.
Right? So FIFA has a few different, let's just call them rule books. They have a disciplinary code that most persons will be familiar with, because the disciplinary code has been there from ever since. And the disciplinary code covers everything that deals with incidents in and around the field of play. So if something were to happen, you as a football person would know, you say, well, we're taking it to the disciplinary committee. You see, so that has been well established. But more recently, because of the growth of football, FIFA has had to produce different books of regulations. So the one that governs what we do is the Code of Ethics, more directly. So if that governs behaviors of officials outside of the field of play. So if you're in breach, what we say, we're taking it to the ethics committee. But FIFA also have a code for players. They have a code for match agents, right? So things governing players, they normally go to the player status committee, right? Or if the players breach the rules in and around the field, it goes to the disciplinary committee. There's a regulations book for match agents, right? And a couple others. So because of the expanding world of FIFA and all that, the issues that keep coming up, there are different regulations for different groups of people.
So how you handle minor league football?
Right. So once children are involved, these leagues are to get licensed also. Once children or youth players are involved.
How you manage that? How you make that happen?
Right. So we have representatives in all of the zones. So for example, South Zone, North Zone, Tobago. And what we do, we contact them through the zones. You see, what happens is that most times these leagues will use the same groups of players, clubs, academies, things like that. So we have informed the academies that they should not participate with any unlicensed league.
And if they do?
And if they do so under the threat of sanction against them.
Against
the academy,
team? The academy.
Yes. So academy that participate in an unlicensed league, they can be sanctioned.
But so if the league is licensed, meaning the person running the thing, but there is one club that's not.
That's not. So what we do, we speak to the league and we let them know that, listen, let the academy come in to get licensed. Because again, the organizer of the league has to ask themselves, why is that one academy not licensed? So if you have a league with 16 teams and 15 are licensed and one is not, you really have to ask yourself, but why is this academy not licensed? And I could safely say that the majority of the academies are not licensed. But I could also safely say that there are persons out there who know they have to get licensed, who refuse to come for a license because they know it will not be possible based on their history to get a license. So that's a word to the wise. You really have to ask yourself, why have they not come to get a license?
I'll take it further. If it is academy, if I'm running an academy and everything is good, and then one bad seed come in there, slip into the crack, I mean, I wouldn't take it so far to find out what is their background, their history on crime or whatever it is. I'm just looking at somebody to me who is acting the right way. How am I supposed to know that, and how do you deal with that?
Right. So again, and see, that may not be your full responsibility because we have our screening process.
Okay.
So before you should even employ them as a person in your academy, be it paid or be it voluntary, they should have been already screened by us to have a license to present to you. You see? So if you really follow the process, the TTFA through Safeguarding has taken that burden off of you. So you don't have to screen anyone. They have to come to us because that license is personal to them. They have to come to us, get that license, and then when applying for a job at your academy, they have to show you that license. Now, if they don't have that license, you're supposed to say, well, no, you need to get it first. Why is that important? Because as you said, a lot of people act in the right way for us to see. But privately, they do a lot of things that they should not be doing.
I can tell you right now, I can go to every pro team and I bet half of the players is not safeguarded, like I'm certified.
No, players or officials, not players. Remember, we're not talking about players, we're talking about officials. Persons who work at the team.
So it's okay for the players to be not certified, or is it okay for players to be not bandit is the word, but people who molesters or something?
So as I said, players, they come under a different rules.
So
right?
whatever that rule is.
Right. So we're not dealing with players. We're just talking about officials in the team. Right? So when we're talking about players is separate. We could either talk about players that are youth players or players that is an adults. So that's two separate things.
Okay, right? So address both.
Right. So players do not have to be safeguarding license. So I said that before. Players do something that's called registration. Right? So the registration will let you know what are the requirements to be registered in the system as a player.
Do you have to have background checks?
No. Players at this point do have to have background checks.
Okay, there's a loophole.
So players are not responsible for or not in charge of kids. Players in a team responsible for themselves. We're talking about officials who are responsible for players.
So safeguarding is really for the kids?
Safeguarding is to protect the kids. The measures are in place for officials. Yeah?
Okay. So if a person is over 18, it doesn't come under the safeguarding requirements?
As a player? Or
as a player or whatever, yeah.
So as an official, which means you're part of the team staff in any way, form or fashion, a volunteer, a manager, executive, anything. Once you're an official, you come under the safeguarding or the code of ethics.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. If a league is playing with all the teams safeguarding certified, I guess,
Right.
and there is one club, not how you deal with that.
Right. So as I said, so what we do, we reach out to the league and let the league know, listen, there's a club that is not safeguarding certified. You need to get in contact with our person for that particular area, right? And that person in that area will contact them and let them know you need to get certified as quickly as possible. That is when they're already playing, already started. However, the ideal situation is before they even take it into the league, we should have asked for their certificate before.
But the leagues, and a lot of people is hearing this now, is not aware of safeguarding.
Yeah.
So because what you tell me now, I never even know that needs to happen. I know people, South Zone had safeguarding, but I never know for the minor league, so to speak, because academies is minor league, they have to go through that process. I never knew that.
And that's okay because we're going through a process of education. We didn't start this process yesterday. It's over, I would say, 2 years now. You know, and what we have been doing, the phases that we went through in terms of education, we did a lot of education with the coaches and officials at that level. And then we did a lot of education at the club level, right? We started to train safeguarding officers at the club level. And now we're reaching out to the leagues. So it doesn't surprise me that you say some people won't know. We have to accept that because at the phase of education that when we now started to really push it out there. And as I said, this is the first TV interview that we're doing. So that statement doesn't surprise me. And we're working with everyone. So far we have 40 licensed leagues, 40. So it's a process, and we know that is not everyone, right? And again, that is the reason for doing the show and for trying to get the word out there.
Okay, we have to take a break again, but how do you stop a team from playing or stop a league from running if there was one red flag in that league or that team? I want you to think about that and answer it when we come back. Viewers will be right back after the short break.
Hi, I am Nigel. Quote Me Today is your daily motivational segment to start your day right. Join me Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. right here on NCBN. Remember, wake up with a smile. Today is your day.
Straight, that's why when we fetting, we just bet hard when we jamming, we just jam down when we drinking, man is strong rum, eh. Pop a bottle right now when we fetting, we just bet hard when we jamming, we just jam down when we drinking, man is strong rum, eh. Pop a bottle, push up your hand.
Trinbago Heritage, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on NCBN TT Television Network.
Okay, welcome back, viewers. Gary, like I said, if there is a league with 7, 8, 9, 10 teams, and there's one team that's red flagged, how do you take care of that problem without shutting down the league?
Right. So the team being in the league is really responsibility of the league, right? So we would have a conversation with the league. The league now has to enforce the TTFA safeguarding policy because remember you're a licensed league. So you have to let the club know, listen, get in contact with the TTFA safeguarding persons, find a convenient time, submit your documents as quickly as possible, right? So that you can get your status sorted out. Now let's just take two different scenarios there quickly, right? One, the person submits their documents and everything is fine. We quickly approve them, they get their license, they participate. Everything is good. But then there's a scenario, the person submits the documents and then there's a problem. And we say to you, well listen, there's an issue here. This person should not be participating in football. And that is the process that we really have to understand. That is what the process does. It gives you now the knowledge to know, well, listen, you know, this person should really not be involved because there are issues with them. And that is something all leagues, everyone in football should want to know, because we should want to really create that safe space for our kids. You know, one of the biggest, we have done 1,400 persons as training, and every time we ask them what's the most negative thing about football at the youth level, the first thing that everybody says is win, right? So too much persons involved with football at youth level just trying to win. So creating a league or environment where persons just come to win, even the officials recognize is not good enough. You have to create a safe space. There must be some developmental value in what is being done, and that could only be done when we look at the behaviors of the coaches and the officials and the people involved. So beyond keeping out prohibited persons, you know, we're saying that, and this is something that came from the coaches through the workshops, is that the behaviors of the coaches and the persons involved in the league is also very important, because if they only focus on win, the negative effects outweigh the good that the league has come there to do.
Well, I have a thing, because if there is a coach on that team that has the red flag,
right?
Why am I shutting down 40 kids because of a coach? Why don't TTFA sanction the coach?
Right. And
take them on the football.
No, I mean, you see, the thing is, we may have already, but the club still provide an avenue for them to participate. The league still provide an avenue for them to participate. So the person that you're talking about may already have sanctions on them.
So send it to the league or send it to the club. And don't just say, I have a red flag against X team. Just send that to the club.
No.
Hey, you got a letter. You can't participate.
Right. So that's part of the process also. That's part of the process, but that's reactionary. That's after. So what we really want to get first and foremost, because it's about risk mitigation, is listen, you don't have a certificate, we're not going to allow you to participate. And what that does is that is proactive. That is ensuring that we put things in place to stop persons from participating if they're not supposed to be there. So both suggestions work. One is just before what we're trying to do to stop that situation from arising. And what you are suggesting we will do, however, that means though that the person was allowed to participate. So we try and, yes.
Unknown to the league.
Unknown to the league.
Right.
So we try not to reach there, but if we reach there, that is the action we'll have to take.
Yeah, because you're affecting a whole league for one person when you could have dealt with that individual and keep the league running.
Yeah, but remember, key though is the league's responsibility now to ensure that they do allow persons like that to participate in the first instance.
Right. If that was done up front.
Yes.
And like you said, it's being done now, but that has to be like a letter to the league or whoever is doing that to say, hey, there's a red flag there. This is what the red flag is. That could be a private letter going on. This is what the person went through. And then let them take it from there. Next thing, I think in implementation, and I'm thinking first time I hear safeguarding, the thing I thought about first was getting the atmosphere or the area safeguarded that some intruder can't come and walk away with a kid and that kind of stuff. So in your implementation, I don't see that happening, which I think it should happen. For example, where football is played in my area, it's fenced, all the kids are in, we have security and all of that. And so I thought that was perfectly safeguarded, not with one person who does not have a license, that it will be, referees don't come because TTFA says this person is red flag, so referee says we can't go because TTFA is going to sanction us, and you stop hundreds of kids from playing football. How do you answer to that?
So safeguarding is many things, many.
I understand.
So what you spoke about there is the physical safety, the physical environment. Mm-hmm. It also incorporates well-being, which is the mental part. Mm-hmm. So making sure the facility is physically suitable and physically secure. Well-being, making sure the coaches don't just focus on winning and shouting at the kids and making derogatory remarks about the kids, about the opponents, how they interact with each other. It also includes that, right? And those things we have addressed through our level 1 workshops. We're working with the coaches and clubs to, be more mindful of those things, right? But then it also includes now the enforcement of the safeguarding policy, you see? And as I said before, the policy was developed based on the very specific situations that keep arising in Trinidad and Tobago. So all the things that were done, including the licensing and how we go about it, right, is to ensure that we could maintain that safe space. Now, would it have specific scenarios that we have to work with different people towards? Of course, and that is why we have the officers in the different zones who are the leads working with different persons, right? But the main thing is that persons are willing to cooperate, you see? So regardless of where you are at, as a league, as academy, wherever, once you're working along with the safeguarding person, then the process becomes much easier. Now, if you choose not to work alongside, so for example, if a club was to say, well, listen, I only have 2 persons license and I have 15 coaches and staff, you know what we do? We send somebody to the club to do a workshop because we want them licensed quickly, we want them on board. We don't penalize the club for having 2 that are licensed now and 13 that are not. No, we work with you. We say, listen, we're going to come, right? We're going to come to Tobago. We're going to come to Point. I did a workshop in it's Guapo Community Center recently. You know, we come to you. We facilitate that process. But you must be willing to be part of the process.
So when would you send a letter to the referees to say, this league is not in compliance because there is one red flag to one of the teams? Right. Don't send any referees to that,
so
that facility.
Whenever we speak to someone, anyone, league, club, individual person, and what we get is resistance, then what that person, that league, that entity, that individual has to remember is that there are sanctions, right? And not only the stopping of persons participating, there are more severe sanctions that could be levied against them. You see? And that is what everybody has to remember. So we're working with everyone. We want everyone to come on board. We want to have that good relationship with everyone. But at the end of the day, because what we're doing involves the protection of children, anytime someone says, well, listen, I don't need to come in, I don't need to do the safeguarding thing. I could just keep on operating like how I used to be before. Then what you are doing is putting yourself in the line for sanctions, because then now we have to exercise some sort of authority over that situation. Because if we don't, guess what happens? Everybody says the same thing. Everybody now says the same thing.
We're saying the same thing because it's still snowballing that there's an individual who is a red flag. They must have paperwork against them. You could directly get them out of football without having to disrupt.
No, that is not true. Because let me tell you why. That has been tried already. And as we said, we have in the past, before safeguarding, sanctioned persons, give them letters and said, listen, this is yours, sir. You are now no longer allowed to participate in football. And guess what they did? The coaching next week.
Not the individual, whoever the club is. That,
right. So now we have to take it from a holistic point of view. We have to get everybody involved. And I will say this, the key is the leagues. The key, because the leagues are the ones, once the leagues screen right, then we know for sure nobody will be able to participate that doesn't have a license. Let me give you an example quickly. This year's Republic Cup. What we did, we asked everyone to submit an expression of interest with the names of the club, the names of the coaches, right, to the TTFA. We screen all the clubs, we screen all the persons that applied. All the clubs that are listed to play have been licensed. Some who applied at first weren't. And then we told them, you're not licensed, you need to get licensed. They sent in the documents, they sent in the stuff. There are staff members in clubs who today are not licensed, but next week we're running a series of workshops so that clubs, if you have 1, 2, 3, 4 people who are not licensed, you will be licensed before your first game. So all clubs license, all staff license in the Republic Cup before their first game. You see? So we worked along with the Republic Cup at the start to get everybody involved and everybody on board.
The Republic Cup?
Yes.
But there's a lot of other leagues running.
Yes.
That you didn't work with nobody, and you didn't send out the letter to nobody, you didn't do that, and people who don't know, you have to work with them.
Yes. And what I'm saying, they have to work with us also.
But you can't work with them, let them continue to play football, and work with them to correct the thing. And that is what was said. And I'm saying for a specific reason I'm saying this. That's what was said. I said, all right, we work together and make this happen. But that didn't happen. A letter went to the referees to shut down, to don't go on and referee no games.
So I don't know if you're speaking about a specific case,
Yes.
but we do speak about specific cases in safeguarding because everything is private and confidential.
Well, I didn't call any names, and,
Right.
and you made references to Republic Cup and stuff.
So
that is
what I will
specific.
say, I will say, again, the key element is the person working with us.
And they do.
Okay, no problem.
And I know, I mean, I'm specific to what I'm saying. They do, and they said they would, and then you and I don't want to say too much on the air, but they said the word to your representative, and all of a sudden the referees say, I can't come and play because I got this letter
Right. So
from Gary St. Rose.
so again, once the principles don't change, once they're willing to work with us,
That's what they were told. They were told that to your
I
representative.
am sure that's not all the information, but we don't have to get into it, but I'm sure that's not all the information. But once they're willing to work with us, we work with them and we have no problem with that.
Okay, we talk about it offset, but let's get the people who want. So like I'm saying, implementation I think is important, yes. Implementation with just a piece of paper, a certification, that's not enough. I think there was a lot more implementation as to field conditions, for intruders to come around, for a lot of things, and I know it would take time for all this to happen.
Yeah.
But we're glad that you guys, doing something to protect our kids. But I'm saying, let's work and not go overboard too quickly. Let's work and try to get this thing together and make it happen.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah? All right, so what is there any other thing that we didn't talk about that you would want the public to know?
Well, not that we didn't talk about, but that's to wrap up and to end. I'd just like to encourage all persons, parents. This is a message to parents. Do not send your kids to any academy or any coach that's unlicensed. That's the final message, and that is the message.
And how is the parent going to know about, the information has to be to the parent. And
Ask them to see the license.
Right.
It's normally accommodated on their phone.
Okay, good. Gary, I thank you so much for being here to let our parents and our viewers know there is something called safeguarding, and they need to be aware of where they put the kid to play football, and they need to make sure the surroundings are great, and the people who are involved in football has a clean background so we can be safe, and this is what we want for everybody. So thank you so much for being here to share that with us.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Viewers, thanks for tuning in every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. NCBN TT, thanks for the opportunity. We do have a Facebook page. You can check us out. And we do have an email address, fieldoфdreamstt@gmail.com, where you can drop us a line. This show has ended good peace. I'm Steve David. Good night.